my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
There is something I want to tell you all, but I think we'll do the story first. I mean, everyone's a little gay. Yeah. Everyone's thought about it a bit. Yeah. A lot. Like, regularly questions their sexuality a couple of times a week for years. Maybe I was gayer than most. I think you were. My name is Anne, and this is a true story.
Good afternoon and welcome to LGBT Life. I'm your host Mick Fitzgerald, and for those people who keep asking me what is the theme music from, it's from La Cage aux Folles, which is a controversial play in its day, but now probably a bit hackneyed because we have come on so much in that time. But today, this week is the anniversary of the 4th anniversary of passing the marriage equality referendum, and that's why we're delighted to invite into the studio Anne Blake, who has written a play on the subject. Anne, welcome to LGBT Life.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, appropriate, isn't it? That 5 years ago today, people were concerned that the referendum may or may not pass, and it passed with flying colours.
Yeah, and I have to say, at the time, I wasn't confident, you know, and it's funny to think back to that time when it wasn't as certain. And then not only did it pass, but it passed, as you said, with flying colours.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, one of the, we will all have days in our lives that we will remember, and that is a day I will never forget, because the sunshine blazed through Dublin Castle. I went out to the RDS for the count, just beaming smiles. I mean, Jerry Adams was there looking for hugs from everybody. That is Jerry, but it was an incredible day, not only for individuals, but also for the nation.
Yeah, it was just in the air, wasn't it? It was just a magic, and I suppose quite early in the day it was clear that it was going to pass, and then you could just enjoy it. It was just a case of how much is it going to pass by, and but still until we kind of heard the final tally, I don't know, I felt there was something very deeply healing for the nation happened that day. And it was beautiful to be a part of it.
Yeah, though I was down at Dublin Castle, and what I say to people is that, Irish people, we do a lot of emotions. We do happiness, we do sadness, we do a whole, we do anger, we do a whole range. But what we have great difficulty with, because it's a complex emotion, is joy. And that is the abiding memory I will come away with from that day, is that I was in a yard with 60,000 people, and the joy was, as I say, it was something to behold.
It was indeed. It was indeed.
Yeah. So tell us about this now, Anne. You've written a play on the subject called The Morning After, The Life Before. I'm calling it a tribute to marriage equality. Is that a reasonable solution?
It's partly there. I mean, it's a big part central hold of the play is the referendum. But the big through line of it is it's a very personal take, so it is my own story. I came out a little bit later in life, and then kind of all the various struggles along the way personally, and then going into the referendum, and the play originally was actually a canvassing play. So I went around to a few different theatres and community halls with this short play, which basically was a proposal to the audience, asking them. I got down on one knee and asked them if they'd let me marry my partner.
That's very brave.
It was yeah. And manipulative. It was, but then when the referendum passed, a lot of people encouraged me and said that you should extend that. So whereas that play was very much me telling my story and trying to just put a human face on something that kept being called an issue. It's like, it's not an issue. It's our lives.
Yeah.
So then I worked at bringing the broader story of the referendum in, and so that the proposal obviously was gone because it didn't need to do that anymore, and it became the central tenet being the morning after the life before was a text. Well, the text message was, how is the morning after the life before, which was my brother sent me that text on the 24th. So it was the day, the hangover, I suppose, the day after all the celebrations, and that was kind of what made me return and look at, let's remember, let's celebrate what happened, but but let's remember that we did come from something else, and we need to keep an eye on that, because well, you look at other parts of the world, Ireland is currently a beacon of hope.
Of hope,
yeah.
Well, isn't it? Yeah. Just to put something to you, Anne, because you come from Limerick. Do you live in Limerick?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, because we always, for those of us who live in what we would call the Dublin arts bubble, you think, oh, everybody goes for this sort of thing. But I suspect it's not quite as, as embracing outside the pale. Well, was Limerick very supportive, or was there, shall we say, the undercurrent that we go back to the old days sort of thing, that people liked a certain status quo?
Yeah, I would say it was a real mix, like because you've your bubbles everywhere, what I think was interesting about marriage equality was it transcended class, and when the canvassing was happening, my partner Jenny was knocking on doors, and a lot of the politically savvy people said there's no point in canvassing the more working class estates because they don't vote, and she was like, no, we're knocking on every door. And they were the ones, she said, the more those estates really surprised her that they tended to be across the board yeses. And I remember even hearing about in Dublin, a box came in from Finglas which was 100% yes.
That was a Sinn Féin constituency. But we love a bit of discipline.
Well, I looked up the figures of my local station. I live in Limerick City in a nice street and that, but my street or my area was 51% yes. Do you know what I mean?
So it's just a bit of a squeeze,
in some places, and the maths worked out that way, and you kind of got it all. Like when I did the canvassing play, it was very much, I didn't want to just go into theatres, because people who go into theatres often tend to be a little bit more liberal, or so I went to community halls, and as well, and often more working class, and they tended to be so positive.
Yeah. It's interesting you should say that, because when I went out to the RDS and they had the Dublin count, what really pleased me was the areas that I knew very well, which were working class areas. They were regularly coming in at 75%. So people who had that this was a very middle class issue, they were very, very wrong. Even where I live, which is where your play is on at the moment, which has got one of the oldest demographics in the country, and they also vote. We still, I think, produced about 67%, which was pretty impressive.
It's amazing.
So as you say, it crossed all the divides, which I think was... what would you attribute that to? Because I worked on the basis that this allowed us to acknowledge who we are as a people, because just about every family has a gay, a gay member of that family, and some of us have more than one. But it seemed to me that there was that acknowledgement that we're supporting our own family rather than taking advice from some external source that was pretty much tainted.
Well, that's true. I think you're right, because when it comes down to it, if you're talking about like political issues or voting on a European referendum or a this or a that, it's all about an external booklet you have to read. Whereas this was personal. This was in every family.
You looked into your heart.
And as you said, it transcended. Like everyone has some member of their family, and that isn't divided by class. That is just everyone. And there was I think that was a beautiful discovery.
Yeah.
What there's a line I have in the show where I said the nation had a conversation, and I think when people were allowed to speak, they realized. You realised that people were supportive rather than the opposite. Because I think when things are silent and unsaid, well, which, let's face it, is the history of LGBT rights as repression and that, when people are allowed to speak and go, I'm actually okay with it, I'm supportive of this, especially the grannies and that, it was so emboldening for everyone and so beautiful. And I think talking is something we do very well in Ireland, but we also often silence ourselves. And what this did was it allowed people to speak in a very, like, sometimes painful way, but ultimately the result was very positive.
Yeah. The other bit that I found really positive as well is that in the past, people, and I've got an uncle that personifies this, people who were gay, because we didn't have gay in Ireland in those days, we just had queers. They had to leave the country as a general rule, or they were kicked out of the house. And I think that was one of the great things that we, as I say, drew a line between the personal and the macro. So the other bit as well, since we're both dreadfully romantic, I have heard on the grapevine that you've since got married. Mazel tov.
Thank you. Yeah, no, the play was written, obviously in 2015 originally, and then it premiered 2 years ago, 2017. But myself and Jenny were engaged since 2012, and so we got married last summer, and it was a very beautiful experience and great crack, and it was only the second gay wedding I've ever been to.
And not in a church.
No, in a garden.
Well, but look, that's the beauty of it now, isn't it? Is that in fact, I won't be controversial on this, but technically, what you do in a church is a ritual.
Sure.
You only become legally married when you sign the register. So, and that's the nice thing is that when I went to Australia, I went to some fabulous venues for weddings that you never had here, on beaches, on, botanical gardens, a whole range of things. So it extends the whole vista, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. And I never thought in my life I could get married outdoors in Ireland, but we had a nice summer last year.
We did, didn't we?
That made it all possible.
And all the family turned up?
All my family were there. It was a bit of a journey to get them all there over the last number of years, but no, it was a very beautiful
But
day.
only a physical journey, not a psychological one anymore. Or was there?
Oh, there was. You need to come see my play, Michael. There was certainly a journey to get them all, standing there that day without any sense of hesitation or, I suppose hesitation. Yeah.
Let's get back to the personal just a bit here, because nowadays, we think, oh yes, who has a fuss about LGBT? What's the issue? I suspect it probably wasn't always that way with you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. God, yeah. I had a very Christian upbringing, but it was a bit unusual. It was Catholic, but it was quite evangelical, and so.
They tend to be a bit less supportive.
So up to young adulthood, I would have believed that it was wrong. Yeah. It was a disorder, a problem, know. And then I think when you start to grow up and look around you, you go, wait a minute. So I kind of let go of all that, but still my own coming out took a long time because there was a warren of walls built up and a lot of fear and I would say I was downright homophobic growing up, absolutely. And so it was a big journey for me to get out of that and get to a point where I could actually embrace my own life.
Did you think the devil had taken over?
Did I?
Yeah.
At the time?
Yeah.
Oh well, no. The devil was long gone by the time. By the time I embraced my sexuality, but certainly when I was a young child, and that the notion of it was that there was something wrong, and maybe a spiritual problem too, or a devil type problem. Yeah. So and look, it was a difficult journey for me as a result of all that programming.
Yeah.
That's
what it is, isn't it?
It's absolutely programming, and even though I had long since exited that with regard to everyone around me, and I was totally celebrating everyone else's sexuality or anyone else being gay, the notion of it for me was not possible.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting one, that, because I've always said that sexuality was a huge issue in Ireland. You know, it was dirty, it was filthy, and it was all of that sort of thing. You know, you were basically meant to feel bad about yourself, and in fact, anything you did, you had to be hugely guilty about it. But the way I interpret it is that sexuality or sexual attraction, it's organic, whereas the other side of it is actually socially engineered. And in many respects, we screw up a lot of kids for just, instead of saying don't be yourself, be something else. And
well, it's a funny thing, because I remember hearing, you know, there's still the backlash in the air now, and you know, when you're encouraging young children to have visibility of same-sex couples being parents or whatever, and it's like, what will it do to the children? And you're like, they're grand, they're fine. And also almost an idea that if you say to children to embrace their sexuality, that it'll cause them to be gay or something, is like, you have an entire group of the population who were told to be heterosexual and still managed to come out. So I think if you will tell children you can be whatever you want to be, then they'll just become themselves, and they won't have the psychological issues and pressures that are normally applied to people.
Well, this is why it's fascinating watching what's going on in the UK at the moment in schools. You know, they're not teaching people about sex education, they're just teaching people about relationships. And they're getting pickets and noisy crowds outside, which is very sad, isn't it?
Well, it's just a waste of energy. You know, there's so much worse going on in the world, and it would just be great to address the actual issues rather than, I don't know, someone being annoyed that they're losing control, I suppose. You know, people don't like to share the space, I suppose.
Well, I think the other thing is great as well is that it's put Ireland, people now in the English-speaking world see Ireland in a very, very different light. We were seen as a downtrodden country that was Vatican ruled and all of that, but last weekend I was in the city and I was wandering along O'Connell Street, as is my wont. I carry cameras everywhere I go, and I saw this group of women. Dublin gets a lot of hen parties. We get a lot of hen parties, and they're usually noisy, and they're usually drunken British women. But these all had LGBT flags on their heads, and I said, is this an LGBT hen party? And they said, it is. Now, isn't it great that they feel comfortable coming here, because that's what we do, we accept.
That's amazing.
There was about, you know, and you know, and I took a separate photograph of the bride and the bride. And they were, you know, and they were beaming. That's all you can say, wasn't it? You know, and I thought, this is great for them, but it's also a huge endorsement for us as well.
Well, it's that idea, even like economically, it's great, you know, to become a tourist destination for where people can feel safe, you know. And it was a very beautiful thing, because I've toured the show to the US and Canada and Britain, and what has been lovely is the reaction of people who didn't know the story, who weren't fully, and you know, I cover a number of things in it. I covered the Homes of Hope phenomenon and stuff, and there was a moment in a Canadian audience where there's a little gap after I said something, and I could just hear an audience member going, I didn't know about that. And what was really beautiful was this feeling of you know, people who were really admired Ireland but didn't fully know what had happened. And I had one girl in Montreal.
We're not just green, we're a whole range of colours.
Exactly. All the colours. And this one girl came up to me in Montreal actually, and she came up afterwards and she gave me a hug and she said, thank you for capturing the day I felt proudest to be Irish. Which is what we were talking about before.
You and I were talking about, it really is that, and all I say to people is that we didn't so much, what we did was we secularised ourselves and we confirmed ourselves. We didn't, but yet it turned out to be such a radical move.
so radical, and just the what it does to the next generation. You know, they don't have the issues that were previously there. You know, and people are able to come out at a younger age rather than... I was talking about this recently with someone younger than me from France, and she was saying her friends came out in their teenage years, whereas no one I knew came out until they were in their 20s or 30s.
Oh yeah, I would endorse that. I always said, there were nobody in my class that I would have said were gay. Now, obviously, statistically, that's ridiculous. So for people of my generation, you would often did what you did and you didn't make a song and dance about it because it was illegal.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about the play itself. You're with Gúna Nua. Now, they have a great reputation of being an innovative and progressive theatre company. What's your history there, Anne?
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to work with Gúna Nua. So I first worked with the company in 2014. I did a show called The Unlucky Cabin Boy, which was it was a Limerick story actually. And I'm in a band called the Brad Pitt Light Orchestra, so we were actually playing music on stage and acting in it, and it was so that out of that kind of initial relationship came, I was developing this show, and I was talking to Paul Mead about it, who's the artistic director, and he came on board to direct and as a company produced the show, and so we premiered it pretty much this week 2 years ago, so it was the second anniversary. And
where did it premiere, as a matter of interest?
In Belltable in Limerick.
Okay.
And then we went on to London, Ontario and Montreal fringes.
And then you took it to Bewley's.
Yeah, so we only premiered it in Dublin this year. Yeah. So it was a while getting here.
Yeah.
We got to New York and London first. But yes, we were in Bewley's February, and the Viking invited us back just for this period of time, which is perfect, which is the actual anniversary of the vote itself.
I should let listeners know, you and I were originally scheduled to speak when you were on in Bewley's, and the logistics didn't quite work out, but it's even better that we get it on the anniversary week, so it's very appropriate. Yeah.
I would have been on stage right now. It was a
Exactly.
lunchtime show.
It was a lunch, I mean, it's a... tell me then, you're playing at the Viking in Clontarf. Is that your first time there?
Yeah, it's a gorgeous...
It's an intimate venue, isn't it? We like it as a venue. It was just previously the upstairs of a pub, but now they've been going on 6 or 7 years out there now, and they do some really good stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's perfect. What's lovely is they offer a 2-week run, which is a real joy in Ireland to get a long run at something. The show itself is very intimate kind of storytelling, and so it suits the venue perfect. And it's not me on my own, so it might be me in the poster, but I have an amazing co-performer collaborator. Her name's Lucia Smith, and she is from Dublin, and she won Best Actress in a festival in New York we were in January for her performance in the show called the First Irish Festival, and she plays everyone else. I play me, she plays everyone else. So she
hate versatile people like that, don't you?
I'm the easy job, and she also pretty much moves most of the set around. I kind of stand there. So I think it's important to know the show is a true story in that, but there's a lot of lightness and sweetness and fun in it. There's a lot of fun. So
and music.
There's music.
Yeah.
There is a song. Well, there's a number of musical moments, but there's one song that was written for the show, which you're just gonna have to come and see if you want to hear it.
I will. I'm planning to go this week.
The one thing I'll say, it's a legal document put to music.
Okay, tell me this now. You're one of those horrible overachievers. You're the playwright and you're the actress as well. Which do you find comes most naturally to you?
Well, I suppose I started performing. That's how I came to theatre, and I think a lot of people in theatre came that way. I came to writing a little bit later, but they're two very different parts of the brain, and of, I suppose, performance is live. I love live performance. It's a joy. But I do love writing too. Yeah. So I'm kind of not answering your question. It's kind of annoying, is it?
But no, what I always say to people, particularly actors, is that if there's not good roles coming along, write your own.
Yeah. Well, especially for ladies.
Precisely. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing was when I was writing this originally, the canvassing play, I knew I wanted to write something for the referendum, and there were two things I said to myself was, it's not gonna be about me, and I'm not gonna be in it.
Okay.
be careful of what is the thing you say you don't want to do, because that
Yeah.
tends to be the thing you actually end up doing. That's the lesson I've learned.
Yeah.
No, and it's been really, it's been lovely to get to share the story, because I was saying to you earlier, people do come up afterwards and talk, and that's the joy of the show, is the kind of connection with the audience afterwards, like both in Ireland and abroad, where people are like, I had a cousin, or my granny, my 85-year-old granny voted yes, or whatever, and or else an older person will come up and just say, yeah, of course I voted yes, you know, and that's a beautiful privilege, I suppose, that I get as a performer, which I wouldn't get if I wasn't there every night performing it.
Yeah, no, because I had a performer in last week, same as yourself, somebody who's written a play and performed in it, and she's Canadian, and she was saying she had an aunt who she only discovered the aunt in the 50s was actually LGBT, and you know, so it's as I say, there's a new era that's coming in, and I think that's really important. So, how would you describe it? Would you describe it as a comedy, tragic comedy, tragic, or a drama?
I would say I have a line in there. It's a lovely line. A light-hearted telling of a true story, or a playful. It's playful. It's very honest, and it has a few emotional gut punches in there. But it ultimately, I would say the show, it's a bit like a hug. The show, if that's a nice way of putting it.
And you've got some fabulous reviews from the UK and the US and Canada as well. I mean, how well did it go down there?
Oh, well, we won top Fringe Awards in London, Ontario and Montreal Fringes, and then just across the board, just fabulous reaction, and we pick up nominations or awards pretty much everywhere we've gone, and the reviews have been brilliant across the board, and we got some great reviews in Dublin recently as well. Emer O'Kelly, who's a very savvy theatre critic, she said it would bring a tear to the eye, so that was a big thing.
A tear to a glass eye, even. Yeah. So tell us then the important bits, what we call the bums on seats.
Yes.
This is its second week. How did it go the first week?
It's been brilliant. We've had great houses, great reactions, a number of standing ovations, and and we got some great reviews. Got a great review from GCN last week, and the Irish Times gave us a theatre highlight for this week. So
Can't be bad.
So
tell us, so for all those people out there who want to go and see The Morning After, the life before,
yes,
it's all this week. Is it until the 25th?
It's running tonight, Monday, until Saturday the 25th at 8 o'clock every evening, and it's just about an hour long, so you can, it goes straight through, no interval, and it's a very heartwarming show.
Last but by no means least, what's next on the cards for Anne Blake? What should we be keeping an eye out for? Are we going back to the Brad Pitt Light Orchestra?
Brad Pitt Light Orchestra will be doing some recording over the summer, yes. And I'm working on a new script called Blood Harmony, which I don't think I'll be in, but it's a totally different show. But that's hopefully going to be in the offing next year.
Well, look, you may be up again for Pride, because one of the social events on the Dublin calendar. So we look forward to catching you again. But Anne Blake,
thank you.
We look forward to going to see the play The Morning After, the life before, this week until the 25th of May, and very appropriate day to be say, isn't it? Well, it's the 22nd is the anniversary.
22nd is the anniversary.
But this is the week that we.
It's the week. Well, 22nd is the anniversary. 23rd is the party. 24th hangover.
Okay, that's it for today's LGBT Life.
My world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am.